Welcome back to JMC Live. Miranda was going to share something at the break. But right before I say that, I'm going to give you an example of someone who is standing their ground for truth. An army post is hosting a Christian outreach event connected to Billy Graham Evangelical Association in North Carolina. Lieutenant General Frank Hemlick of the 18th Airborne Corps in Fort Bragg wants to rock the fort for Jesus Christ. Now, if a lieutenant general in the United States Army is willing to fight against the government, against North Carolina, and the world, and say, I'm going to rock the fort for Jesus Christ, why can't you rock your own fort?
Yep.
This is something that needs to happen. We need to stop being so hypocritical. I know the Bible verse talks about worrying about the planks in our own eyes. And we talk about stories like this so you can evaluate yourself and see what can I do to make a difference in this world. This world is your world. You live in your own little world amongst the whole world of earth. You have a set blinder view of what you're going to do every day, how things work. All of you that watch my show, you have your own mind, you have your own set of friends and acquaintances, and you have your own religious beliefs, you have your own, morals, and your own sin struggles. So when you hear these kinds of things, what does God want to do through you today? How does He want to transform your life so you can reach more people? I've heard so many people use the common phrase, I'm just going to pray more.
Yeah.
That's fine for people that struggle with prayer and don't understand the perplexities of prayer. But there are some of you that are moving from the elementary teachings of just prayer to action.
Well, let me share. You were talking about people need to start taking a stand for Christ in the face of, are you going to tolerate this or are you going to take a stand? Are you just going to let somebody just, push, say, well, you have to choose, make a choice. You either do what we want or, whatever. I had to make that choice when I was 13 years old. I've shared this with quite a few young people, and I said, you will be placed in a situation like this in your life, and you will have to make a choice. And my choice just happened to be in front of a whole bunch of parents and a whole bunch of kids on a softball field. I signed up for softball. I played softball 2 summers before this incident, and I really enjoyed it, and I was really good at it. And 2 years later, when I was 13, I signed up for softball again it was a summer softball league. And the coach, the guy that was going to be the coach, he comes on the field, and we're having our first practice, and my parents had already bought my uniform and everything, and I was really excited because I was going to get to play fast pitch softball, and I really was excited about it. And he comes on the field and he starts saying, well, this is how it's going to be. He says, well, you may hear me cuss at you once in a while and yell and scream, but you mess up. And he says, so you need to be watching what you're doing and blah, blah, blah. And first off, I thought, well, I'm not going to have anybody cussing at me because it's just a stupid game. And second, he starts saying, well, these are the days that we have softball practice. Well, the one day they had, only one day, they had like 3 practices a week, and the one day that they had practice was on a Wednesday. And I went to church. And my parents were involved in the church. I was involved in a church, and I really enjoyed it. And he said, and he kept going on, and I raised my hand. He said, yeah. I said, well, I'm not going to be able to come on Wednesdays. And he says, why? And I said, well, I have church on Wednesdays. And is that okay? And he says, he looks at me like with no sympathy, compassion, or empathy, or anything. He looks at me, points his finger at me, says, well, you got a choice to make. You either choose softball or you choose church. And then he went on talking, and in front of everybody, I gathered my stuff up, and I walked home. And I didn't go back. Because I wasn't going to choose a game over my salvation. Because the game was going to end, but and it wasn't going to last more than a month or two. But my salvation, my soul is forever. And I was not willing to compromise my salvation for a stupid game. And I shared this with a young little girl just last Friday. And I told her, I said, you're going to have to make a decision like this one day. And I said, I don't want you to have to, but in the life, in the world we live, you will have to make a choice like this one day. And it could be very public. But I pray you have the strength to take that stand. And I did. And I did cry. I went home and cried because I really wanted to play softball. And I never got to play softball. And I never got to play fast pitch. And I loved the game, but I was not going to compromise my salvation for a game. And, I took my stand, and I felt like it was the right decision to make. And, I feel like I'm a stronger person because of it. I didn't tolerate him saying he was going to swear at us and cuss at us, and, that's abuse. And I'm not going to allow anybody to abuse me for a game. And then to turn around and point your finger and say, well, you have to choose between God and this game. I thought, well, you're crazy. And I was only 13 years old, but I knew where I stood. And I hope there are young teenagers out there who know where they stand and will stand up for God. Like I did. And like many have. All around the world. So, but, I'll be quiet now. So.
No, you don't have to be quiet. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But, the moment of truth is very effective when you take a stand. Yeah, that's a story for teenage normally, and even for college-age people.
Yeah.
Well, what about when it comes to the different things that you place into your body, meaning what you hear, what you listen to, what you read? And there's a time and a place for different things. Like when I was younger, I didn't take a job because I know I needed to go to church because I was struggling with too much stuff going on at home. With all the physical and verbal abuse, I needed to go to church. And some people said I paid for that price because I ended up homeless later on. But if I had to go back and redo everything again, I would still make that same choice. Yeah. Because I wouldn't have been following God where I am right now if I didn't make that choice. Sometimes you have to make tough choices.
You finally got it out there.
Yeah, and it's hard sometimes. You can't get the words out right.
But this is not implying that people should just quit their job.
No, I'm not saying...
Or anything like that.
Yeah, there's some jobs out there. I mean, if you're working at a porn shop, I suggest you quit.
Yeah.
And find something else.
But, I mean, I worked many jobs where I worked, on Sundays. And, I mean, I'll be honest, the first 2 jobs I ever had, I was very lucky to be able to have every Sunday off. One of the first two out of 3 jobs I had that opportunity. And it was a blessing because I was able to do ministry. But then I went into the nursing field and I was on call, sometimes 24 hours, for a whole day. I was working 16-hour shifts. I was working Monday through Sunday. I didn't have a life. My life was working. But God gave me the ministry opportunities in the nursing homes to pray with people. The nursing homes would have Sunday services that we would take the people to, and we could hear, and it was, so God infiltrated in some way, no matter what. And, we don't live in a perfect world. If it was a perfect world, we would have every Sunday off and, and never have to work again on any Sunday and, just have a day of rest. But that doesn't happen in the world we live in today.
No, it doesn't. We're going to actually end tonight's segment for JMC Live. We're going to transition over to the after show where I want to take your guys' calls. I want your comments. I want your questions. For those of you that are not able to do that, I'm going to send you guys a link for an email that you can email me directly, and we'll respond to any questions there. That is official JMC Ministries eternalflamenews@gmail.com. For those that are interested in our Eternal Flame News, that's eternalflamenews@gmail.com. You got a story or something you want us to write about, someone you want to interview, you contact us at either one of those. And when we come back for a break, get those questions ready. I'll take them in the chat. I can take them in the email. And if you guys have Skype, I might even fire up a Skype or something and answer the questions here.
Yeah.
So let me know what's going on. I'm more than willing to do whatever's possible, and we'll probably even take phone calls. So thank you, podcast. You're wonderful people. YouTube fans, you're wonderful people. We'll see you next week. Chat, we'll be right back.
God bless.